Hey everybody, the March 2023 Roundup is brought to you by Fun Again Games. And hello everybody, here Jen and the Pooches and I are in the Valley of the Gods in Utah. Actually, the Valley of the Gods is over on the other side of that butte. We're just in a little nearby creek bed that we were exploring with the dogs so that they could get good and muddy before we get back into the RV up there on the hill. And folks, what I'm about to do is, as every month, tell you about all the games that Jen and I played over the preceding 4 or 5 weeks. This time, we played almost all of them on the road as we continue our tour of the American Southwest, and we're having a grand old time, although looks like it's time for breakfast, so everybody's heading up, so I gotta follow. Before we get going, though, 2 things. And my apologies for the wind noise. These gusts keep coming up. I keep trying to avoid them. But anyway, thing number 1, because I only brought my little laptop on the road, let's go ahead and give you a view of the Seven Sisters back there. How about? Okay. Since I brought my little laptop on the road, it's not powerful enough to do serious editing, so this month we will not be hearing from Shane, Kimberly, and all the rest of the contributors. It's just going to be the games me and Jen played. And number 2, this is sadly the last Rahdo Roundup sponsored by Fun Again Games, who have been such an amazing partner keeping us running. But you may have heard they are closing down their online retail. I talked about this a bit with Ruel and Chris George in the last R&R show. You can hit that I in the top right corner of the screen, or maybe it's there. I'm not quite sure. And go watch that. Did a little bit of a eulogy. But let me tell you right now, folks, they're going out of business online is good news for you, because everything that they still have in stock, although their stocks are dwindling fast, is 40% off, and their prices were already competitive. So there are still some good games. I was checking last night, and you could go find them. You know, there's a link for it down in the show notes, and you won't see the 40% off till you actually get to the checkout page. So you'll see higher prices, and then just boom, cut in half when you go to buy. I just want to say again, a huge thank you to Fun Again for sponsoring the show, helping keeping us running, and helping grow the board game industry as a whole. Check out that R&R show where we talk about that a little bit more. Unless you just want to hear about a bunch of games, in which case, hold on, and we'll be right back. Okay, everybody, we are now inside. There's a little bit less wind, although that continues to buffet us heavily in this little part of, what's the name of this place again? Valley of the Gods. Right, we might actually use the mobile nature of our mobile home and move tomorrow if these winds don't die down. But supposedly they're going to die down this weekend as the temperatures increase. So fingers crossed that we will not be pushed around quite so much. But folks, you don't really care about life on the road. You just want to hear about the games, right? Well, let's get going. Starting with number 14 on the list, Tenpenny Parks, which is a perfectly fine little gateway-style game. It's a cross of worker placement and polyomino-style tile laying. Now, first of all, even though it's from first-time designer Nate Linhart, congratulations, Nate, oh my goodness, is this gorgeous, because, of course, it is from artist Vincent Dutray, one of the greatest board game artists working today, one of my absolute favorites. And it looks every bit as good as you would expect from a Vincent Dutray game. And it plays nice and sharp, too, if you are looking for a quick, fast-playing, a gateway-style game. Because the 2 halves of the game, first of all, there's worker placement, which basically we use predominantly to grab the different polyomino style pieces that we want to add to our little neck of the wood to make the best carnival we can. And, that's pretty straightforward. There's nothing really groundbreaking about the worker placement in this game, but if this is you wanting to introduce your friends and family to worker placement, there's a lot worse choices you could make. It works really nice, and it's smooth, simple, and fast. Once you get those tiles, you have to lay them out on your own little personal fairgrounds that are blocked off by trees. One of the actions you can do is to chop the trees down if you want, but if you can work around them, you can save some time and be more efficient with the puzzle of the polyomino pieces. Plus, there are certain spaces on your fairgrounds you want to cover to get extra bonuses too. Very barren park in that regard. And the polyomino tile pieces are quite nice. The big twist of the game that I thought was going to be a bit more impactful than it turns out to be is the fact that no polyomino piece can be directly adjacent to another. You have to keep space between them all, which makes it a little bit tougher to perfectly lay out your fairgrounds for your Tenpenny Park. But it didn't have near as much of an impact as I would have hoped. I was kind of expecting something more like, Founders of Teotihuacan. So it's got nice, solid, family-friendly gateway-style worker placement and tile laying with some really great components, wonderful art. And if you're looking for a good gateway for people who are attracted to this type of scenario, you could do a lot worse. It's sharp, it's fun, it's just a little bit too lightweight for me and Jen, which is why Tenpenny Parks comes in at number 14. Then let's talk about number 13 on the list, Star Trek Super Skill Pinball. Not just pinball, Super Skill Pinball. Now, this is a sequel to or I guess I say the latest iteration of a very popular line of roll and writes that recreate the feel of a modern pinball game, with all the literal bells and whistles and flashing lights and all of that. It's Super Skill Pinball and all of its offshoots are very smartly designed. And if you love roll and writes and if you love pinball, modern pinball, they are definitely worth checking out. Now, I could care less about pinball, but I do love Star Trek. And this has 4 different unique pinball tables that cover different parts of the Star Trek pantheon. There is Starfleet Academy, which is just a very simple, straightforward intro to the game. There's the Trouble with Tribbles, where Tribbles are multiplying like crazy, and if you can keep them in just the right amount, you can score big bonus points off of them. There is, the Enterprise fighting the Borg, which can be probably one of the biggest, most complex implementations of this system so far. And honestly, let's see if we can find it. My favorite one is the Lower Decks version, Pro Motion, where it's where the gravity has gone haywire, and it's kind of like if you would imagine a pinball machine where instead of it just being a ramp from one side, down that keeps gravity bringing the ball down, there's like 2 ramps butted up against each other. So if you get the ball over one side, it'll go down the other, and you've got flippers on both sides, which replicates, a pinball machine trying to replicate the idea of gravity going crazy on the ship. That's so cool. There are so many cool, unique ideas in here that bring this Star Trek feel to life. So why does it come in at number 13? The same problem I've always had with Super Skill Pinball. It takes too long. Officially, this is a 45-minute game. For us, it feels more like an hour, give or take, but even 45 is too long. For such a light, simple, fast-playing, family-friendly gateway, this should be a 20-minute game. If they could give us rules, and I was hoping there'd be some alternate rules this time for a way to express play the game without sacrificing any of the ways that you build up and you do all the cool things, but just kind of speeding it up so that we could have a 20-minute roll and write. Oh my God, this would be perfect. But like I said, for us, it's a little too long. Both my wife Jen and I thought it kind of overstays its welcome a bit. But hey, again, we're not pinball wizards. So, maybe it's perfect. It must be because so many people rave about this series. I thought Star Trek would be enough, but it wasn't quite enough. And so Star Trek Super Skill Pinball comes in at number 13. Then let's go on to number 12, Sobek 2 Players, which I have to admit is a really weird name for a game. You'd expect this to be called like Sobek Duel. That's kind of the standard, but this is a 2-player only game inspired by Sobek, which I have to admit, it's been so long since I played it, I barely remember the original Sobek. I remember liking it back in the day, although I don't still have it anymore. Where's a picture of the game? There we go. Here's a picture of the game set up. So, this is a 2-player only game, no solo mode, and I love the core tile drafting mechanism here. Basically, there's this Ankh. And if the Ankh is facing east and west, that means on your turn, you can grab anything on that row. If it's facing north and south, you can grab anything on that column, or it can face diagonally as well. But you want to take the tile that's right next to the Ankh. If you try to go and grab a tile that's further away, then you have to grab all the tiles in between the Ankh and the one you want and put them in your corruption pile. And as you might imagine, whoever has the most corruption loses a lot of points at the end of the game. But hey, it might be worth it to grab that perfect set collection that you're trying to get, that last ivory or fish or whatever it is so you could sell it, market, and make a lot of points. So The interesting thing is, after you pick up that tile, you put the Ankh where the tile was and maybe pick up some corruption along the way. And the tile you picked up, all the tiles have arrows on the edges saying which way the Ankh will now face. So if I grab that tile that's over to the right and the tile I take away had up and down, then the Ankh is going to be up and down, and I'm letting you take anything in that column. And that's where the interesting thing comes in, because I might know that you desperately want that super valuable ivory tile that's in that column. So I can't let you have that, but I've got to grab that one tile. So do I try to puzzle a way that, hey, I can go around and come at it from another direction and you'll get me the access to it? That's really cool. I like that a lot. And there's a really cool economic sales system as well for how you sell and get immediate bonuses, but then you can upsell later. I like all that too. So why is it so low? What didn't I like? Two things. One, man, it wouldn't be a Bruno Cathala game or co-design if there wasn't some random take that thrown in there for no reason. Some of the special powers you can unlock in this game are literally go fish, stealing tiles directly from your opponents, or messing with each other, and that just didn't need to be here. That's kind of a bummer. Now, it's interesting. You can kind of get around it because every, what are they called? They're the face-down tiles, the character tiles that have those special powers that you can use. If you don't want to use them, I don't want to steal from you. I can, but there's ivory on it. I could add it to my ivory collection, or or lumber, or whatever is on that particular tile, and that's nice. But that leads to the other problem. Not all of those characters are created equal. Some of them are so much more powerful than others. And the thing is, all the characters are face down. So it's a total crapshoot. Whether you're going to get some merchant who it kind of feels like I got an extra turn by using the merchant. That was a nice little power. Or if you get the queen, which feels like you got 2 or 3 turns worth of bonuses. And it's all just total randomness because they're face down. And Jen and I found, well, the game can feel a little swingy as a result. And I wish there was a variant that said, hey, have all the characters face up. If they're not all created equal, if some are better than others, then let us choose. Let that be part of the actual drafting instead of it, what it is right now, a luck shoot that you might get the perfect one for you and I get one that, maybe that'll be good if I can bend my entire game backwards to try to make it somewhat useful. So, the randomness of the characters and the swinginess of how powerful they are, plus a little bit of take that, is kind of what kept Sobek 2-player from being a something that Jen and I fell in love with. But if you don't mind a little bit of 2-player and you like a little bit of surprise drama, you might want to check it out, because again, that draft is so cool. I love it a lot. Number 12. Sobek. Okay. And let's move on to number 11 on the list, Dice Manor. As the sun is literally going down over the mountain, things might be getting dark pretty soon, folks, but I'm going to keep on going. Let's talk about Dice Manor, the latest from Arcane Wonders. And, this has got some really sharp stuff. I think this is going to be a very popular game. It's one of the Dice Tower essentials, so they love it over there, and I totally get why, if you're playing it at a higher player count. Because I'll just cut to the chase, folks. This is a very, very cool auction game, which I guess kind of borrows the auction system from an older dice game I haven't played called Las Vegas, I believe. But it adds a whole bunch of really cool tile-laying stuff because we are rolling a handful of dice, grouping them up. Hey, there's my 1s, there's my 3s, there's my single 4. And if I want that room that's in the slot number 4, I could use my single 4 and hopefully get it. But you might outbid me because I can see what you rolled, and you rolled 3 4s. Are you going to use all 3 4s to outbid me? Do you not care about that room and maybe I could grab something else? Or the thing is, if I go ahead and bid with only 1 4 and then you outbid me with 3 4s, I've still got a shot, because after I bid, the rest of my dice get re-rolled. And if I could roll some more 4s, maybe I could outbid you later on. That's a cool system. I like it a lot. I like pretty much everything about this game, especially as you build up your perfect manor, because we're real estate agents trying to show it off. You can use your dice to get more, to earn more dice. You can use your dice to get, abilities to change dice, mitigate your die results. You can use dice to bid on the rooms themselves that you add to your manor, but most importantly, you can send those dice to the manor itself to be part of a guided tour, which is the way you score points. So there's a lot of use for these dice. I really like everything, but the problem is there's really nothing in the game to tighten it up so that there's an increased amount of tension in 2 players. At 4 players, I suspect I would be so wrapped up with, oh, you rolled a bunch of 4s, I don't have any, can I go for that? What am I going to do? But in a 2-player game, there's just as many options. And Jen, I found we would tend to just, oh, I'm over here, you're over there. We don't really butt into each other that much. And even if you do outbid me, there's so many other things I can do because I'm not fighting against 4 players for all these limited resources. When there's only 2 players, the resources aren't very limited at all. And so that was kind of a bummer. I wish they could have done a little bit of tightening. Now, my wife, Jen, she didn't mind at all. Sometimes she just likes a nice, chillaxed, laid-back game. And that's what this is at 2-player. But I would have liked it to see a little bit more tension-filled, which is why Dice Manor comes in at number 11. But again, I think it would rank much higher at a higher player count. Okay, let's go on to number 10. And as the sun goes down, is my satellite starting to fail? Come on, satellite. Oh, here we go. All right, it's showing up. Hasn't failed me yet. Tribes of the Wind. Now, this is going to be a very, very hot game. It was got a lot of attention at Essen Spiel last year. And it's going to be going wider later this year. And as more people get their hands on it, I think they're going to be falling in love with it, in part because of Vincent Dutray's absolutely stunning art in this future world where mankind has reverted to more primitive ways and we're trying to undo all the pollution of the ancient ones. That's us. And yeah, I like the subject matter. I like the presentation. And I like the core card mechanism. Most turns, I got a handful of cards. I'm just going to try and play a card. Meet its requirements to be able to get whatever benefit. But the thing is, often those requirements have nothing to do with me. They have to do with my neighbors. I might want to play a card because it gives me a really good bonus or whatever I'm trying to do. But this card says to be able to use it, I have to have fewer fire cards than the neighbor to my left and my right. And I've got 1 fire card. I see my neighbor to the left has 3 fire cards, but my neighbor to the right has no fire cards. So I could play the card, but it would give its weak benefit. And so I want to wait until my neighbor to the right drafts one of those fire cards that are in the draft on their turn. So do I go ahead and play it right now and get the weaker version, or do I wait? Because if I can anticipate what my neighbor to the right wants to do, because hey, they might want fire cards because the fire cards are the ones that move your wind riders around, if I recall. No, fire cards are the ones that get rid of pollution. So I can see you've got a lot of pollution. You can't build anything until you clear the pollution. You probably want some fire cards, player to the right. So I think I'll wait. I'll wait for you to draft, and then I'll play when I've truly got the fewest and I can get the biggest benefit out of this card. That is cool. That is fun. It's really kind of a randomizer. I've got 2 randomizers to determine how well my cards play, but they're not just die rolls or something like that, or a cube tower. They're human beings, and I love that. So, and I love it even more in a 2-player game because in the 2-player game, I've got only 1 neighbor. I'm playing with my wife, Jen. My other neighbor is the 5 cards that are laid out on the table that are the ones that I use to refill my hand. So we have some limited control over what my other neighbor has. I love that too. I think the game is best as a 2-player game, quite frankly, although it's fast no matter how you play it. Because at the end of the day, it's a race. Once one player finishes building 5 villages, which also gives them the opportunity to unlock upwards of 5 bonus objectives they're trying to do, they get some bonus points and that triggers the end of the game. And so we're racing to repopulate the forest, clear out the pollution, move our people around so they can build new villages and score us lots of points. And the only reason the game comes in lower is because that second half of the game is good, but it's not great. It is totally solid. The tile laying, trying to get the right types of tiles next to each other. I mean, all that stuff works nicely, but the core gameplay is so amazing. The way you interact with other players, not in an aggressive way, but more just trying to anticipate which way they're going to go. I absolutely adore that. And I wish the rest of the game kind of lived up to it. The rest of the game is good, but that's great. And so it's that combination that brings Tribes of the Wind in at number 10 of the month for me. And by the way, folks, don't take my word for it. Go watch my run-through of the game, and you can see for yourself if it looks like you'd have a good time. I'm just one data point, everybody. Anyway, let's move on to number 9 now. Scorecards. Now, this is from legendary designer Mike Fitzgerald.
And at first glance, it really just kind of looks like an Uno sort of game. And I think that's kind of on purpose. They're trying to go for that really simple, straightforward, streamlined, mass market, could buy at, any, major department store style game. But do not be fooled. This game has such hidden depths. It's a simple, on my turn, I'm going to play a card from my hand and then draw another card. And we keep doing that until a round is over. But the thing is, every time I play a card, every card is a scorecard. It says, hey, if you play this card right now, here's how I will score points. And all the cards basically pay attention to what's already been played. But not only what's been played by you, what's been played by everybody. So if I've got a card that scores me a lot of points, if a lot of red cards have been played, it's not just me playing red cards. If I see you're playing a lot of red cards, then I want to hold on to this because maybe you're going to play a few more cards of your own, and then I could get super points out of this if I can anticipate which way you're going. And the more you play this game, the more you're going to know what types of things are available. The first time you play, you're just kind of being very reactive, but you can be proactive as you get better at this game. But now what really is interesting is once a round gets finished, what happens is we hold on to the cards we haven't played, we refill, and then all the cards that have been played that we were relying on to be, hey, I just needed one more card so I could play this green card and blah, blah, blah. Everything gets wiped out and you start over. So there's kind of a push your luck element. Do I just go ahead and get this played now for some points? Or do I hope that if I wait a little bit longer, but not too long, I can get a bigger payday? This game is really fun. And if you don't mind abstract card games, I think you're going to love it. Folks, between you and me, I overheard Tom Vassell talking to a very big publisher in the industry saying, you need to pick this game up before somebody else does. It's a really big deal. It's not widely available right now, but Mike Fitzgerald was at the show showing it off to publishers, so keep an eye out for it in the future, folks. For me, I need a theme. If this game had any kind of theme, even something like, I don't know, some kind of Tron virtual hacker thing in cyberspace, or the origins of microbial life. It could have been anything, because I need a little bit of theme. But if you don't, then I think you are going to be very, very impressed when you can finally get your hand on a copy of Scorecards. Alrighty, then let's go on to number 8 on the list. Come on, Starlink. There you go, Starlink. Out in the middle of the desert, no cell coverage anywhere, and yet I am pulling the internet from space to talk to you about number 8 on the list, Astro Knights Eternity. Now, this is the NES expansion coming out for Astro Knights, which is an excellent, streamlined version of one of my all-time favorite deck builders, Aeon's End. Aeon's End and Astro Knights are known predominantly for being the deck builder, where you don't have to reshuffle your deck. You have so much control over your deck. They are cooperative games where players are working together to take down big, scary, seemingly impossible to beat bosses, and yet somehow you can pull it off by the skin of your teeth, and it's a really great design. Aeon's End, one of the all-time great. Astro Knights, almost as good, but not quite, because, for me anyway, it's a lighter, faster game. It's designed to be able to set up and play quicker and without all the crunchy complications of Aeon's End. So, I kept my copy of Astro Knights. I love it if forever I want to play some Aeon's End, but I want it faster, quicker. I don't want to spend 20 minutes setting up all the special decks and all of that. Or if I just want to have science fiction instead of fantasy. So anyway, the new one, Astro Knights Eternity, which I can't show because there's nothing about it anywhere online. So you're getting a little sneak peek for something that's going to be crowdfunding next month. It adds several new things. It's what you want from an expansion like this. It's a bunch of new cards. A bunch of new playable characters, a bunch of new bosses, and it adds several new features, like the the expedition system from Aeon's End, where players can create their own little mini campaigns to play through. Plus, it comes with a very, very cool story-driven campaign, because Astro Knights Eternity is set, generations after the Astro Knights disappeared. And so a new ragtag group of ne'er-do-wells have to be, take on the mantle of the Astro Knights and save the galaxy. So it's fun. It's fun, silly stuff. But if you just want to fight big bosses and all that, it works really well. But there are some cool new card effects too. I really like the one, I can't remember the name of it, where once you discard this card, you kind of splay it off to the side, because as long as it stays in your discard pile, It's a permanent power you've got. And so in a game where you can so readily control the flow of your deck, being able to keep cards in your discard pile to give you those special abilities, and then being, no, I don't want to reshuffle my deck. Or again, you don't reshuffle your deck. I don't want to reset my deck. That's cool. There's another power that cards you can play not on your turn, but on your opponent's turns to boost them. There's a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, if you love Astro Knights, then you know you're going to want to get this. And if you love Aeon's End like I do, and you haven't tried Astro Knights, this might be a good time to jump on board because it's got lots of really cool new ideas, and it comes in at number 8 of the list. Okay, then let's go on to number 7, Pioneer Rails. You can do it, Starlink. Don't let me down, Starlink. There we go. From space right to this RV in the middle of nowhere. Let's talk about number 7, Pioneer Rails, which is a roll and write. And I was so excited when I heard that Jeffrey Allers and Matt Dunstan, 2 of my favorite designers who I believe have never worked together, are coming together to make a roll and write. And I love roll and writes with multi-use cards and bingo-style gameplay. Sign me up. Now, my video for this hasn't gone up yet. It'll be going live in April when the crowdfunding campaign for this game starts. But let me just tell you right now, folks, this is very cool. I said multi-use cards. What happens is every round, and we're going to play through 20 rounds, 3 cards are drawn. Whoever is currently the dealer, and that just changes from round to round, picks one of those 3 cards and keeps it for themselves, and then everybody else uses one of the 2 remaining cards. We've seen this in kind of other stuff before. But how do you choose what card? Well, the cards are poker cards. What is it? The 10, the jack, the queen, the king, and the ace in all 4 suits. So you've got a deck of 20 cards. And so most turns you're going to have 2 cards to choose from. Like you might have the ace of hearts and the 10 of spades, right? So which one are you going to use? Everybody is going to use one of those 2. Well, the face, the 10 or the jack, is important because every 5th round, you're keeping track of every face you choose, and at the end of the 5th round, you're going to score based on poker hands. So you want to get a full house, you want to get 4 of a kind, you want to get a straight, you want to get 2 pair, and all the normal poker stuff of, hey, if I go for a full house, if it doesn't work out, I know at least I can pull off this 3 of a kind, maybe that'll be something, do I decide, all that stuff works here, and so that's one use. You care about the face, because you're trying to make these poker hands 4 times over the course of the game. But you also care about the suit, because the suit, clubs, is it clubs, spades, diamonds, and hearts? I believe that's right. My wife always calls them clovers. Anyway, the suit tells you where are you going to extend your rail line, because this is a rail linking game where we are trying to get a whole bunch of rail lines connected between mines and banks so that we can deposit the gold nuggets between the sheriff's office and the old the desperados so we can collect reward money, cutting off the separating different ranches so all the cattle have their own land. Every type of building that you can connect to as you're expanding from either the heart region, the clover region, the diamond region, or the spade region is going to give you access to different buildings. Including buildings that give you special powers that let you like override the suits or build rails across rivers, as a bridge, or tunnel through mountain walls and all kinds of stuff like that. Every time you play, there's going to be a different collection of objectives you're trying to complete. And that tension of, I really want that jack to make 4 of a kind, but I really need to expand right now from the hearts because I'm trying to get to that last bank and I'm running out of time. Which one do I take? Do I take the 10 of hearts or the jack of spades? I love multi-use cards. I love roll and writes. This game is fantastic. And also, not for nothing, it is probably one of the heavier roll and writes that have come out so far. This is definitely a cut above what we are come to expect. It really makes you crunch, gives you a lot to think about, and it's number 7 of the month, Pioneer Rails. Okay. Let's go on to number 6. And number 6, I'm sorry I can't show this game to you because I played it in prototype form at Dice Tower West. Yes, another prototype I played at the convention. But still, I just want to tell everybody about Raas, A Dance of Love. Now, This is a game from the co-designer of Viticulture World. This guy, with some help, took viticulture and turned it into a cooperative game and made it 10 times better. I definitely wanted to see what he had in mind yet. And so I've met him in previous Dice Towers. He came up and said, Rahdo, I really want to show you this. And so we sat down and played it, and I was blown away. Now, why? Well, unfortunately, there aren't very many pictures on Board Game Geek, are there? No, there are not. But if you ever saw this game in real life, and you saw it in motion, you would immediately come over and want to play it, because this is a game that replicates the real-world dance traditions in India of Raas, the Dance of Love, where big groups of people are swirling and full of beautiful colors and dancing around. And the board is actually a collection of individual discs. On each one of these discs are a collection of dancers. The dancers are represented by beautiful, beautiful translucent dice. The picture I've got here shows cubes, but they're actually beautiful dice. And every round, we're going to turn that central disc, and all of the other ones are going to turn. If you've ever played Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar, from Czech Games Edition, and thought, man, I love this, but I wish the gears would turn more. They turn all the time here. And so much of this game is equally spent trying to figure out, right, which dancers are going to be next to each other after the rotation so that I can get bonuses, because we're trying to do a dance of love. And if the right dancers meet with the other right dancers, that's great, if you can anticipate how things are going to rotate. But we are also, each group of dancers on each disc, you've got the number, you've got the color of the dice, and then you've got the color of the slot they're in. So these are triple use dice, and you care about drafting all three of those things. The color they're in represents the action you can do. The colors of the dice and the numbers represent how good they are at the different types of dances. Oh my gosh. It's so cool. Anybody would want to play this game, but I should warn you, based on the prototype I played, it is a super crunchy game, maybe even too crunchy. And that's why this comes in at number 6. It's still got some rough edges. They're still working on the design. They just had a prototype at Dice Tower West to show to publishers to try to garner interest. Well, I'll tell you right now, folks, I am super interested in this game. If those little, like some rough edges get tweaked out, and I gave some suggestions for what I think would be done, and I think he kind of liked them. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. I expect this is going to get a lot of attention as the heir apparent to Tzolk'in the Mayan calendar that does gears better than Tzolk'in ever did. It is so freaking cool. It is my number 6 of the month, Raas, Dance of Love. Okay, then let's go on to number 5. That is the return of Uwe Rosenberg, one of the greatest designers of all time, doing what he does best. Heavy, crunchy, economic Euro simulations in Oranienburger Kanal. Now, I'll be doing a run-through for this next month, so you'll be able to see it soon. So I'm not going to go too much into detail. But suffice to say, folks, why was I excited about this game? Why, you ask? Because it is the return of the resource wheel. First introduced in Ora et Labora, and then we saw it again in Glass Road, I want to say. It might have been a different one. I think it was Glass Road. Tell me down in the comments if I was wrong about that, folks. Yeah, this is a two-way street. Anyway, I'm just trying to do this from memory. But regardless, the resource wheel is as good as ever. Moving and consuming some goods to create other goods. I love it. But that's not what makes this game special, because we've seen the resource wheel before. This is a worker placement game for 2 players only, although there is a very good solo mode as well. And as you would expect from Uwe Rosenberg, he was way ahead of the curve on that. And what we're trying to do, each player has a board, 4x3. I forget the name of the town we're in, some Austrian town or German town, but it is where the Oranienburger Kanal is. I'm sorry, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, but anyway. And over the course of the game, we are going to be doing worker placement. There are only 7 worker placement spots in this game. 5 of them are going to get activated every turn, and the ones that don't get some money to make them more attractive. Plus, the worker placement spots level up over time also. But anyway, simple, straightforward worker placement to get the resources we need to build the buildings that we want to put on our board. And the thing is, these buildings, they give you points. But more importantly, they have a special ability that you can activate. To activate them, you get to activate each building twice. Once when you completely surround it with route tiles, whether they are paths or roads or canals or rail lines. Once you completely surround it, you get to activate that building. Then you get to activate that building again once you have connected it to 2 other buildings with bridges over those routes. Or it might go the other way. First, you might activate it with bridges and then later on by surrounding it. Either way, this becomes such a rich puzzle. You're trying to figure out which buildings to put next to other buildings because they both kind of use the same types. If we got both of the, I'm trying to build both of these things that want canals. I want them next to each other with canals running between them so I can eventually put a bridge over them so I can activate both of them and all kinds of stuff. And it's just wonderful. The depth and complexity of this puzzle is great. My only complaint about the game is not really my complaint. It's my wife's complaint, and it's a decent one. This game is trying to be language independent. So all the building cards, and by the end of the game, you've got a bunch of cards on your own table you're trying to keep track of, plus 6 you could be drafting. They're all just awash with dozens of icons. This game would have been so good to not be language independent, to say, hey, here's the German deck, and here's the English deck, and here's the Italian deck, and I know that costs more money, but you have to learn a language of icons in this game, and towards the end of the game, it can get a bit overwhelming. Now, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth putting in the time, and I think my wife does too. But that is one minor complaint in an otherwise stellar, phenomenal game from Uwe Rosenberg, who is working at peak form. This game is fantastic. It's number 5 on the list. It is very hard to pronounce. Oranienburger Kanal. Okay, then let's go on, folks, to number 4, Expedition. And I know that is a pretty nondescript. This is probably the 5th or 6th board game that has that title. That's too bad. It makes it hard to find, but it's even hard to find because right now it is only available in South Korea. Published by Korea Board Games. Man, I was able to check this out because they are looking to find publishing partners, and any publishers watching this roundup right now, I highly recommend you contact them and get this on your roster because this is such a fresh new take on deck building. This is going to really surprise people when somebody picks it up and brings it to the wider world because right now it's only available in Korea. What is it though? Well, you've got a randomly generated jungle island that we're Indiana Jonesing through, trying to dig up treasures. It's a deck builder, so we have a starting deck with some of the cutest art you have ever seen. You're going to fall in love with this game when you start seeing some of these character cards, if they show up as I scroll through these pictures. But anyway, your cards let you move around from space to space. They let you dig up treasures when you find buried stuff. They let you generate money so you can hire more people. Nope, not very many pictures here. Let's just go back to the main one. So far, all this sounds pretty straightforward, right? What makes this game special is the way it handles deck building. Because, first of all, you don't have to play all your cards and then discard the rest. If you want, you could have a perfectly valid turn just playing 2 of the 5 cards in your hand and then refilling your hand. And often you'll find yourself doing that. Because here's the deal, folks. You only get to go through your deck once. You do not, when you get to the end of your deck, you don't just reshuffle and flip it over and then just keep drawing cards. When you run out of cards, your expedition is done. But at the end of every turn, you have the option to say, hey, you know what? I have bushwhacked my way deep into this jungle. I found some good stuff, but now I need to get back to camp because I want to hire some new people. At the end of every turn, you have the option to just instantly basically teleport back to the starting tile, no matter how deep you've explored, and then use all the money you've accumulated potentially over multiple turns because money is not virtual. There are coins. You save this money up from round to round so you can hire some people. And then on your next turn, and then after you hire people, you then take all the cards you played, all the cards you haven't played, all the cards you just bought, shuffle it up, make a new hand, and next round you can start going out again. Sounds really simple, but wow, does this ever shake up the state of deck building, and I love it. Now, folks, you're going to get to see a run-through of this. I'm very jealous. Amy and Maggie will be running through this later in April, and I can't wait to show it to you because it's fantastic. I'll probably do a group final thoughts with them because I was blown away by this game. They're going to have gotten to play it more than me, and I want to talk to them about it. But in the meantime, folks, all I can say is watch this space because I am really hoping some publisher out there is smart enough to pick this up because this is a special one. Number 4 on the list, Expedition. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Let's go to Japan. let's go to Japan. Yay! Here's my run through. I've already covered it. It's from designer Josh Woods and AEG. And oh my gosh, this game is such a wonderful card drafting thematic game all about trying to plan the perfect trip for a 6-week vacation in Japan. It was actually inspired by designer Josh Wood doing this in real life and realizing, oh, I could make a game out of this. And what a game he has made. Every turn, most turns, you're going to have 2 cards in your hand. You're going to pick one for yourself, put it on one of the 6 days, and that is you building your itinerary. Each of the 6 days is ultimately going to have 3 cards on it. And the card you didn't choose goes to your opponent, and they'll pick it up later, and you'll have to choose between it. And so, as you might imagine, this is a game of, man, I really need to visit more gardens. I should play this card, but I really have this other special effect, so this other one will work for me too. But if I give away the garden card, you want it even more because I can see you've got an objective for visiting lots of gardens by the time Wednesday comes around, so I can't give you that card. But I can't give you the other card because that's the one I really want. What am I going to do? That kind of tension works so well here. But what's really special is by the end of the game, you will have 3 cards lined up in front of every day. And the bottommost card, or I should say the one that's on the top of the stack, that represents an objective you have for that day. Every day has like a morning, an afternoon, and an evening card you want to do. That evening card, it means, like, it might be that by the end of Thursday, I want to have gone shopping at least 4 times. And so, by me putting that card there, I've given myself a goal of having a whole bunch of shopping happening sometime on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday morning. Now, here's the deal. Tuesday might have randomly been selected to be the perfect shopping day. So I know, okay, I'm going to put this on Thursday because by Thursday comes around, I will have already had a super shopping extravaganza on Tuesday because Tuesday is the best shopping day, and that's, again, all randomized. So by the end of the game, you will have 6 objectives you have chosen for yourself. And at the same time that you are building those objectives, you are building the resources to complete them. And the last thing we do in the game is we actually go on our trip and we resolve everything. And sometimes you can be surprised because sometimes you don't like the cards you've got. And so you can just discard them and then draw a card blind, keep it face down. And that represents on Tuesday, when you discover that face down card, you go for a walk. And hopefully it's what you need. And sometimes it is, but it's always exciting. This is a wonderful game. It is so thematic. And I just want to take a second to do a quick shout out to Matthew of the YouTube channel Room 51. Matthew spent an hour reading the rules at Dice Tower West to teach me how to play the game. And I'm really appreciated. We had a great time, me, Matthew, and I think it was your fiance, Matthew. I'm sorry. I don't remember if your fiance or your wife, but I had a great time playing with you. Folks, check out Room 51. Hit that eye in the top right corner screen. There's a link down in the show notes. Matthew is a frequent contributor on the Dice Tower Board Game Breakfast, but he has his own channel as well, and it is fantastic. Matt, you were awesome. I had a great time playing with you as we all went to Japan with number 3. Let's go to Japan. Okay, folks, let's move on to number 2. Now, this is the 1,000-pound elephant in the room. It's the one everybody's talking about. It's Earth. And let me tell you right now, folks, this lives up to the hype. I'm calling it now. There is no way this game doesn't make it into the Board Game Geek Top 100 by the end of the year. I would be shocked if this doesn't make it into my own top 10 games of the year. It's so good. This is, as far as I'm concerned, this is a Terraforming Mars killer. This is close to an Ark Nova killer because this is one of those games that has a gigantic brick of almost 400 cards, all of them unique. So you get so much variety as you're trying to build up the perfect biome in this card drafting engine building game, right? But the thing about this game that it really makes it special is you get all the depth and crunchiness and complexity and fun of a big, epic game of Terraforming Mars of Ark Nova in an hour, no matter how many players. It does the Race for the Galaxy thing, right? Of, hey, there's 4 actions. When I'm the lead player, I can choose any of those 4. I do a strong version of it. Everybody else does a weak version. Whether it's collecting more soil so I can play more cards, whether it's playing those cards, whether it's filling those cards up with sprouts and seeds, or growth and seeds, or whether it's just drawing more cards, so that I can get more played, because everybody's racing to make the best 4x4 grid of flora and fauna they can. And often these cards want to be in the same row or column with other ones, or they want to, there's all kinds of ways that you can score points off of these cards depending on how they're laid out. But what's most important, you lay them out because you're making an engine. Whenever somebody does the orange action, right, they get to do a strong orange action. They get a lot of soil for playing cards. Everybody else does a weak orange action, they get a little bit of soil, but then everybody, the lead player and everybody, activates all their orange cards they've previously played. So the trick is you've got to activate them in order from top left to bottom right. So you've already got other restrictions for how you're trying to expand your little 4x4 grid, but then you throw into this complexity of this very specific way that you're building an engine out of your 4x4 tableau. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Like I said, it lives up to the hype. It got my wife's one of her very rare 5 out of 5 stars. She almost never gives those out. She loves it. I played this game over half a dozen times at Dice Tower West. Every time I was finished playing, somebody else walked by, oh, can you teach me how to play the game? And I just kept playing it, and I never got tired of it. Number 2 for the month, Earth. And yet, folks, there's a number 1. Oh my gosh, yes. Number 1 for the month of March 2023 for me was a little game, an expansion, I should say, called Furnace Interbellum. Now, Furnace is just about perfection. It is one of the greatest auction games of all time. They don't make games like this anymore. So smooth playing, so elegant, so much fun. You can go watch my original run-through video I did of it to see what I thought of it, why it made my top 10 of the year. But here's the deal, folks. If the Interbellum expansion content had shipped with the original, Furnace might have been my number 1 game of that year, because this so elevates the game. It adds a bunch of stuff. First of all, it adds the resources so you can have a 5-player game, which is nice if you like that. I mean, I don't particularly care about that, but it is nice for people who want to play 5 players, and I think it looks like it'll work great. But more importantly, it adds new things like an extra bidding chip that is programmable. And how much coal you put in is how strong it is. So, and if you know Furnace, you know that's a big deal. A 5th bid where you can specify any value you want. You can even go bid higher than 5 or 6 if you got enough coal to spend. So it gives another use to coal in the game, which is also awesome. But, hey, if there are more bids to make, there are more things to bid on. There are these new tiles that are managers. When you get them, they are not buildings like the regular cards that you're adding to make your engine. Instead, these managers are free floaters that you can apply to your existing cards. Every time you run your engine, you can put them on a different card, and it gives you so much more flexibility. Plus, they add a whole bunch of new cards. A lot of cards with a lot of text, actually. Because the original game, all the cards were really simple, just goods conversion type stuff. But now, a lot of the cards you can be bidding on give you ongoing special powers. They won't do anything for you immediately, but once you've got them, you want to leverage them for the rest of the game. So, this takes such a simple L game, it makes it a little bit more complex, but not too complex. But oh my God, does it up the crunch factor through the roof, and it makes an already perfect game somehow even more perfect. It was my number 1 game of the month, the expansion for Furnace, known as Furnace Interbellum. It'll be coming later in the year. Watch for it, folks. This game is something really special. For backers of the show, will be doing a solo run-through of it before the month is out. So if you're a Rahdo Recluse backer on Patreon or a More Rahdo backer on YouTube, you can watch me play it and see why I think it's the bee's knees. And that's it, folks. Phew. That was a lot.
And that is it, folks. Not very many games. Yeah, I seem to spend a lot of time talking about them, don't I? Well, it is time to get back to resting and relaxing in this beautiful landscape. Jen and I actually did a 12-mile e-bike ride earlier down the road, and we might be deciding to move to a less windy location after we scouted down the road of the Valley of the Gods. But anyway, folks, you may have noticed there's a bunch of names over there flying by. These are all the people who help Rahdo run, who support the show either on Patreon, on YouTube, as members, or on Twitch. And thank you so much to everybody for helping keeping things going. And also, because some of you go a bit above and beyond there, I'm going to do a special shout out thanks to, in no particular order, Amy Adams, Graham Wallace, Marianne Gonzalez, Dave Salvatore, Dem Noir 2030 CE, Kristen Bailey, Cheryl Howard, Kisa Griffin, Eric Z, Lex, Heather Udarian, Dr. Fu, Nicholas Elkins, Ben Easta Samnionis, Jeff Young, Marlon Cruz, El Crosso, as he's also known, Jay Huber, Kevin Bertram, Chris Arnold, Caitlin Albert, Jerry Reese, Davey Davis, Charles Hill, Adrian Dog, Cobra Misfit, Jeff Glazin, Blake Wilson, Sharon Laubach, Dan Halligan, Victory BHG, Janice Inti, Jimmy Schroeder Hansen, Hans Peter Back, Mom Gamer, Marilyn Chris Steele, Mike Bloom, Cameron Zafar, Stacy Lee, and Selma Lee, and Steve Ercolini. Thanks especially to you folks, but thanks to all of you. Bye. And finally, in closing, for the last time, sadly, on the Rahdo Rounds Up, thank you very much to sponsor of the show, Fun Again Games. Have a very, very nice day, everybody. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.